I don't want to spend a lot of time on backstory. To make it a lot simpler for everyone, let me just say that I spent a long time back in the 1980s and the 1990s employed by a very, very wealthy man. I would be escorted to his properties around the country and would clean them when needed. Not just me, obviously, but I was part of a larger staff. Sometimes I would be a live-in maid and spend time cleaning, both when he was present at the property and also when he was not there, to keep it clean for when he did arrive, or to get the properties ready for big events and things like that. I am not going to say who this was for obvious reasons, but I will refer to him only as W. Now, W obviously did not hire me personally. I worked as a cleaner for a lot of different agencies who would give me jobs to go out to. One of these times, I guess W contracted the agency that I was working for, and I was sent out along with a horde of other cleaners to completely scrub his property out in California from top to bottom. I'm talking a full deep clean. After this, I was contacted by his agent, I guess is what you would call it, and eventually, I was hired to work for him through his agent, instead of continuing to do work through my agency. I would see him sometimes, and other times he would be absent for days or even weeks on end. He never spoke to me directly, only very, very rarely. Jobs and orders were usually passed down through a hierarchy, and so I would speak to the man in charge of cleaning instead of W himself, or sometimes other workers, depending on what was going on. We were not allowed to speak unless spoken to. We were required to sign an NDA and all of the usual rules that you would expect. W was really weird, always really secretive, I would say. Whenever he interacted with staff, it would always be done in private. Whenever food was prepared for him, no one would be even allowed in the house until he had finished eating. If you were upstairs changing sheets or making preparations, you would be sent outside for the hour or two it took him to finish his meal. Even if there was a storm outside, there would be no exceptions. He had these thick blackout curtains that he would always draw because he did not want anyone to be able to see inside. He would have them drawn day and night. Occasionally they would be open, but more often than not, they would be closed. He was an oddball, to say the least. If he ever had any guests over, we would be sent down into this little concrete room in the basement. It had these wicker chairs and stone seats to sit on, and it was more like a prison than anything else. We'd be told to remain down there, and would only be allowed out if we were called or required to do an important task. One time, I had to spend an entire 8 hours down there because he was having some kind of a party. I kept hearing people screaming and shouting and banging pretty intensely on the floor. He only ever spoke privately to me once. I actually almost forgot about this. It only just shot back into my head while I was writing this. The rest of the staff were ordered away, and he spoke with me down in that basement room. He kept grabbing my arm and caressing my neck while licking his lips, and I don't even think he was paying attention to me when I spoke. It made me immensely uncomfortable. I figured he was your usual rich freak who thinks he can get away with anything. I can't remember what he even wanted to speak with me for. It was for something really odd, like asking me how I washed his sheets, asking me to tell him what perfume I was wearing. I remember he grabbed my arm, sniffed all along it, and he kissed it, but at the same time he nipped my skin with his teeth. It really hurt actually. He put a lot of force into that, but it never drew blood. He pretty much left me alone after that. It was weird. After he nipped my skin and sniffed all along it, he made this really odd face, and then after that he quickly withdrew and told me to get back to work. He just stopped being weird. He stopped really even paying attention to me after that. Anyway, fast forward to this one day when W has a guest over. This guest was also incredibly rich and in the same business sector as W. I guess I will just call him E. I had never seen E before at W's property. I was never told what he was there for or for how long. I remember being sent down to the basement room and the sounds upstairs got really rowdy. It sounded like people were jumping around and I heard some squeals. Sometimes they were bringing more people while we were down there. After a while, I was asked to go and clean a room upstairs, one of the guest rooms on the far side of the hall. One of the other maids who worked there that I knew, I will call her Jenny for the purposes of the story, she was not down there with us. I figured that she was already at work cleaning another room. So I went upstairs to the very top floor. But halfway down the hallway to the room that I was supposed to clean, I heard some noises coming from a door that was slightly ajar. I really shouldn't have, but I decided to take a peek in there, just slightly, just for a second. Sometimes I wish I had just ignored it and just kept on moving so I didn't have to see what I saw. Jenny was laying on her back on the bed, and he was biting into her. Jenny's eyes were incredibly wide, and she had her mouth hanging open, with drool dripping down into the corner of her mouth. She had made a yelping sound before I looked in there, but now she was just staring up at the ceiling, and she didn't even look like she was breathing anymore. E was literally hovering over her, but with his face down on her neck, and he had his teeth pressed into her. Only, his teeth did not look like regular human teeth anymore, like they did when he gave me a really creepy weird smile when he arrived. In fact, E did not look the same as he did before at all. Before, he had this long hair that came down to his shoulders, but now, most of it looked to have come out in clumps, and he had a massive bald spot in the center of his head. The rest of his hair was on the bed and on the floor in a clump, like it had just fallen off right then and there. His ears looked as if they had been stretched outwards and were now more curved or pointed at the ends. And his face, his skin, all of it looked much more pale and a lot more sickly in color. I had no idea what the hell I was looking at. His teeth that were sticking into Jenny, they were a lot more pronounced than earlier. It looked like two really long front teeth just jabbing into her, just longer than front teeth should be, and like they were sharpened. I was trying to keep low to the ground and quiet, and I was covering my own mouth with my hand. I was terrified that someone would spot me, and at the same time, I just could not look away or move. I was frozen to the spot. After this, I saw him pull these teeth out from out of her neck, and I could see these two gaping holes in Jenny's neck, but there was no blood gushing from them. He wiped something away from his mouth, and then he proceeded to spit in his own hands. He spit something out of his mouth that looked really thick and stringy, but I don't know what it was. Then he rubbed his hands together and then placed them around Jenny's neck. He made this motion with both of his hands, like he was gripping someone around the neck. It looked like he was gripping her pretty tightly, and then he started flexing his fingers and almost like he was massaging something into her skin. I just left at this point. I could not stand the sight in front of me anymore. I left to the room down the hall, and I just continued on with my cleaning like nothing happened. I mean, what could I even do? I tried to put it out of my head and pretend that I saw nothing. I heard more sounds coming from down the hall while I was cleaning. It was like he was not trying to be subtle. I heard chewing and the smacking of lips. At some point, I heard someone that was not E coughing quite violently, and I remember that W eventually entered the room and spoke to E in a muffled tone. W then came into the room that I was cleaning and forced me back downstairs. He grabbed me by the arm and shoved me along. He did not give me that same creepy smile he would usually do. He just looked really stone-faced, really solemn. Fast forward about a day, and E is still there, but workers are now being permitted to go and do their jobs and prepare food and clean and stuff. I ran into E on the way to another room that I was assigned to. I tried not to react to him, despite what I had seen. I tried to just look down at the floor and not look at him at all, but I heard him clear his throat, and I could not help but look up at his face for just a second. He looked normal. He looked like he did before when he first arrived, only his eyes were tinted a little bit yellow now where there should have been white. He did not smile at me or anything like before. He gave me this glare and actually stopped walking while I was looking, and he just followed me with his eyes. I saw him scratch his head. When I did, I shit you not, I could have sworn I saw his hair shift really unnaturally, almost like it was not properly attached to his head. Maybe I just imagined it though. I actually found Jenny in the middle of making my rounds. She was in this dingy little room in the corner of the property, and she was on her hands and knees just scrubbing the floor. She was not looking where she was scrubbing. She was staring vacantly right in front of her, and I watched her do this for a couple of minutes before trying to talk to her. She was not even scrubbing anything. The carpet where she was scrubbing did not seem to have a single stain in that spot, but other parts of the carpet were dirty. She just kept going and going. I tapped her on the shoulder and I was like, "What the hell are you doing?" Bear in mind, Jenny was a pretty fiery woman. She liked to be an ass, and if she could cut corners, she definitely would. She was the rebellious type, and we got on pretty well. When she turned around, I could see that there was not a scar near her neck, but there was a kind of a rash there. It was red and quite lumpy, like she had been scratching at her skin aggressively. She kind of stared at me blankly for just a few seconds. Her right eye looked infected. It looked to be slightly red where the white should be. And in a complete monotone voice that didn't even really sound like hers, she just told me, "He said I could not move until I got this spot clean." Like I said, this was odd. Firstly, because we will be told to work by either cleaners above us in the pecking order or other staff, not directly by W or his guests. And also, there is no way Jenny would listen and spend so much time doing this. She would have just moved on to doing another task. I shit you not, she got back down on her hands and her knees and went back to scrubbing. I grabbed her and told her to stop playing with me, and she slapped away my hand and stepped up very quickly. She still had a blank expression on her face, but her body language made it seem like she was really annoyed. She told me not to distract her. She told me that she had a job to do, and explained that she did not want to disappoint E. I asked her again to snap out of it, and I put my hand out towards her, and she proceeded to shove me over hard, and I hit the ground and the wall. She did not say anything after that, but I noticed that E was in the doorway just watching us. When Jenny saw him, she immediately got back down on her hands and knees to clean. She looked shocked and scared all at the same time. Her facial expression switched from blank to that one in half a second, maybe even less. It was so surreal. E told her no, and the second that the word left his lips, she stopped what she was doing and stared at him. E told her to stand up and stand next to him, and she did so, quicker than I've ever seen her move before. E gives me a glare, but pretty much ignores me, and gets Jenny to start following his orders like a dog doing tricks, asking her why she stopped, telling her to hit herself, to beg for forgiveness, and she proceeded to do all of this without even a second's hesitation. And then E stares at her for a little while, and he told her, "You told me that they stopped you," referring to me. "Hit them, and I will forgive you." I put my hands out and shouted no, but Jenny just launched herself towards me, shoved my hands away, and then slapped me with her open palm across my cheek. I started shouting, asking what the hell was going on, and at this point, Jenny was looking back over her shoulder at E without moving, and all he says is, "I didn't say stop." She proceeded to slap me over and over again. Then E asked her to punch me, eventually asking her to bite my arm until I bled. This whole time, he was just smiling and clearly taking a lot of pleasure from this. I was scared for my life. I did not want to move or cry out because I thought I would just get into more trouble. Eventually, E told her to leave the room with him, and she did so instantly. That was the last time that I saw E in my time working there. That was also the last day that I saw Jenny working there. I asked another worker a couple of weeks later, and they told me that she just stopped coming in one day, and so she was fired. To this day, I have no idea what happened to her. So, when this story happened to me, I was 20 years old and a student. I'm Croatian, by the way. I was looking for a summer job just to make some quick cash before university starts up. I have this one friend that lives on one of the islands. He tells me that a captain of a tourist ship is looking for crew members. I'm thinking, hey, why not? I always really liked boats, and I mean, how hard could it be? I learned that there is only 2 people working, the captain and his buddy. The buddy is a good-for-nothing dipshit. He only got the job because he's the captain's friend. The captain is a really experienced sailor. He teaches me everything. I work around 12 hours every single day, sometimes alone because dipshit buddy is always drunk or hungover and he does not even show up. The pay is not all that much. The job is hard as shit since I do 90% of the work. The captain has to steer the ship so he cannot help me. Still though, I love every single minute of it. When I get free time, I talk with tourists and try to score the numbers of some cuties. I get built because of the constant hard work. I look like Popeye on steroids. So at this point I'm thinking, this is the best job ever. So, fast forward to my last week on the ship. I give the captain my notice so that he can find a replacement for me. I feel kinda bad, but I can't just put my life on pause. The captain finds a fat, inexperienced kid to replace me and asks me to teach him everything. I have not seen dipshit buddy on the ship for around a week now. The kid is basically useless, but he's got heart and he's willing to learn. I teach him how to tie the ropes after leaving port. The kid just can't seem to get the hang of it. One day, we sail out on strong winds. The captain puts me on horde control so the tourists do not get jumpy. The kid has to tie the ropes, and he doesn't. Around 6 nautical miles off the coast, a tourist knocks the rope over while nobody is watching, completely by accident, obviously. The rope gets tied up into the propeller. The ship just stops. We are adrift in butt-fuck nowhere while the wind is wrecking our shit. The captain tells me to go under and cut the rope free. I don't know how deep it was where we were, but the water was dark as shit as seen from the ship. Nevertheless, it was that or we drift for hours or sink due to the wind. I take off my shirt and jump into the freezing hell water. The captain throws me the mask and the knife. I swim to the propeller and I just start cutting. I have this constant feeling that something is watching me. I just feel really, really uneasy. I go out for air. This rope is really thick, so it's taking me a while to get through it with the knife that I have. I dive back down and I look into the deep. I shit you not, something is down there. I panic and I start cutting as quickly as I can. I look down while I'm trying to cut the rope. Oh my god. There is something down there still moving, and it's really, really big. I cut my hand by accident because I was not looking properly. I was too busy focused on whatever this thing was, but the rope finally snaps. I feel like Cthulhu himself is about to snatch me. I rip the rope from the propeller and I swim to the surface. I don't even use the stairs. I climb straight onto the ship using the anchor. The captain is like, "Anon, what the hell, you're bleeding. Are you okay?" The captain looks at my face like he's seen it before and takes me to the ship hold. The tourists are cheering me on like I saved the country or something. I can't even get my breath back because of the fear that I am feeling. The captain patches me up and gives me the rest of the day off. He says that he and the kid will take care of the horde. He doesn't even ask me what happened. The next day I quit. The captain is sad, but He tells me he understands. Fast forward around 2 years later, I never stepped foot on a ship after that. I now have a massive fear of the depths. I cannot swim more than 100 meters away from the shore before my anxiety kicks in. I still have nightmares about that day, but nobody believes me when I tell them. Maybe now I understand Cap's buddy. Maybe that's why he's drunk all of the time. Okay, so this is my first time ever posting my story. I was around 14 years old when this happened. It was October to November of 2018. Me and my stupid ass friends had broken into an abandoned house just a few days ago. My buddy Jaden comes up to me at lunch. He's like, let's go to the trap house after school. We had decided to call it a trap house, lol, despite not being one. I just said okay and did not think much of it. I just thought it would be fun. The end of the day comes around. I meet up with Jaden at the outside of our high school. We walk to the house. It's not even that far away from our school. It's about a block or so away in this little weird neighborhood. The first time that we went into this house, it was filled with Catholic stuff. I'm talking crosses, paintings of Jesus, and other religious stuff. The house itself had this awful vibe to it. When I walked in, I got this feeling. It felt like straight hatred, and I got the feeling like I did not belong there, and the feeling that was telling me to leave the entire time I was inside the house, every single time I went. My friends think I'm a pussy and a moron for feeling weird in an empty, abandoned house. I'm like, whatever guys. I feel like I'm being watched, all that kind of cliche, but it feels like when someone is right behind you, and even if you don't know it, you are aware of it. This place is not right. Today would prove me right. Me and my buddy are walking to the house down a road called Watch Avenue. We get around the corner and enter the empty field next to the house. I get this feeling not to enter while standing in the empty lot near the house. My body just won't let me get any further. My legs feel like posts cemented into the ground below me. My friend Jaden asks me what's wrong. I say, I don't know. I don't feel right about this. I'm not going in there, but you can. He calls me a pussy again and again for not wanting to enter the house. I literally do not give a shit about what he says. I am not entering this house. My buddy goes inside to investigate. My buddy goes around the side to the back door, which had been unlocked, as we broke a window to get inside and unlock it for easier access. He is gone for not even 20 seconds. He comes bolting back towards me. He looks pale, and he has a bugged out look on his face. I'm like, what the hell, dude? He runs up to me, hands on his knees, panting hard as hell. He has asthma, and he is just trying to catch his breath. After a moment or so, he regains his breath, and his asthma fucks off. He begins to tell me about what he saw. He said he thought he saw a person in there. He begins to tell me the person was dressed in all black, and had these pearly white eyes. He told me they were about the same height as a child would be. The back door of the house enters into the kitchen and the bathroom. Someone could have been hiding in there, which is what I rationalized it as. I think he's bullshitting for sure. I finally gain my composure, and I am ready to fight the demons or whatever the hell is inside this house. Let's go. I have my buddy come with me up to the back porch of this house. I tell him to wait there, and if he hears a struggle or me yelling, to come inside and help. That was our plan, in case I got attacked by a hobo or something. He is just waiting at the back door. I enter through the long dark hallway of the back porch addition of this house. My eyes are straining in the dark to see anything, as there was large pieces of plywood over the windows at this time to prevent any burglars from getting in, or any squatters. That weird feeling comes back. It becomes way too powerful as I enter the kitchen. I go into the bathroom to check. The feeling is overwhelming me, like I literally could not breathe in the house. I get the smell of a skunk or some kind of gas leak or this sulfuric smell. I wish I was bullshitting you guys, but that is what I smelt. I look around in several of the downstairs rooms. My instincts are yelling for me to leave. I enter the kitchen again, ready to leave, and just like a pin drop in the middle of a silent night, I hear a loud creak above me, like someone putting weight onto one of the floorboards of the steps going up to the second floor, which lead into the kitchen and the living room from a landing. If someone wanted to, they could catch me if they got down the stairs before I got out of the hallway of the back porch edition thing. I just book it out of the house. My heartbeat is racing, but I didn't care. I was getting out of this damn place. My buddy is looking at me scared. I tell him I felt weird in that house again. He said he felt that way before going in, but he just played it off. We brought the house up again just around a week or so ago. The house is now lived in by people. It was repaired by some guys who bought it after we broke in, and the police were brought to it to investigate. Talking about demons and interdimensional beings, I researched the place some more. There are Austrian immigrants who were Catholic and spoke German that lived there. A priest actually lived there. A Croatian guy lived there. This Austrian dude who had 5 sons, his father was killed in an assassination in 1908. You can look this up. The dude who was murdered was named Anton Harburler. They were coal miners, not uncommon for our location back in the 1900s. He was shot by another miner on Thanksgiving Day, 1908. Damn. His last son died in December 2015. None of them had children or were married. Their family died with the last son. My friend thinks the excess of the Catholic shit was because a demon was attached to the place. He thinks the priest blessed the house. I'm not sure what to think. He does not ever want to talk to me about it anymore. So X, if my friend was not bullshitting me, did we encounter a demon or a shadow being? I'm led to believe myself it was a demonic entity. So, this happened when I was pretty young. I spent a lot of time fishing and dicking around by the lake near my house. It was not on our property, but it was about a 15-minute walk away, and nobody else was ever around it. I used to think of it as my own private lake. My dad assumes it's owned by someone or some company who's holding on to it, hoping the value will increase over time. He tells me I can play there, as long as I do not mess anything up or leave anything behind. He also tells me, if you see anybody out there, you get your ass back home, alright? These are the terms by which I abided in order to have my own private lake. I invite my friend Josh to the lake one day. We decided we would try to make a raft. We never got one working. We got soaked and then just laid in the sun in order to dry off. My shoes and socks were soaked, so we were both barefoot. The sun is starting to get near setting by the time we are done playing. I want to go home, but we had brought our fishing poles and had not fished yet. Plus, the fish always bite more at dusk, according to Josh anyway. He was wrong, because we did not manage to catch anything, and it was pitch black by the time I convinced him that we should go. While we are packing up, a soft female voice comes out of the darkness. "Where you going? Come play in the lake." It's the friendliest voice I've ever heard, so much so that I was not even afraid of a random voice that dark in the night. Then it says, "Hey guys, come down here and see me." The voice was so sweet and welcoming. We both started edging forward to see where it was coming from. Josh just started hollering, "Fuck, fuck," and this shocked me out of this daze that I was in. He'd stepped on a fishing hook I must have left sitting there a long-ass time ago, and so he was screaming in pain and shock. The sudden clarity let me think enough to decide to grab Josh and drag him hopping away. We never went there ever again. Josh still remembers, but everyone else thinks it's just a tall tale. I lost a good pair of shoes. It was probably just some chick making a joke, and we flipped like idiots, but still. Who knows? You can never be too careful. When I was 5 years old, I had gotten up in the middle of the night and looked outside the window. My mom was not in the bed that we shared, but I really did not think anything of it. There was nothing out of the ordinary looking out the window at our cul-de-sac, but as I looked to the right of the house, I still vividly remember seeing behind the trees, hanging maybe a few 100 feet away in the air, a dark circle in the sky, not very large, with one central large light, and probably 5 to 7 other ones arranged around it on the edge of the disk. They were all white lights. I remember seeing the central light become brighter and make a cone of light like a spotlight in the air below. I turned around, and a small grey alien wearing something that resembled a swimming wetsuit stood in the doorway to the room. It was very small. I honestly think it might have been shorter than me at age 5. I walked closer to the thing and stood around a few feet away. I remember it spoke to me, but I do not remember any details. It did not seem angry or threatening towards me, and I am sure I answered it somehow. Again, I cannot remember what I said, but afterwards it left down the hall, and that is as far as I remember. The problem is, years and years later, my mom told me that when I was about 5, she had a similar but far worse experience. She said that she woke up in a metallic room, and one of those aliens, like I had seen, was tugging at her arm. She told me it told her horrible things that she would not repeat to me, and this went on for some time. She also mentioned it was a very short creature. So with that, and her telling me it happened when I was 5, I feel uneasy, wondering if this all happened the same night. I recall she said she prayed, and the whole thing ended very quickly.